Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Monday Zen and Zazen class. Today I will talk about Sawaki Roshi's quotes from To You. And before I forget it, actually, I wanted to say that the last couple of weeks, but I kept forgetting it. A friend offered to put these classes on Spotify. And people have been asking me, why don't you do some stuff on Spotify as well? And my answer was, well, I don't use Spotify myself. So why should I upload the stuff that I upload to YouTube to Spotify as well? People can come to YouTube. But it seems that some people like Spotify more, or for them it's convenient on their work, on their way to work, whatever. So if you belong to these people who like to use Spotify, I will put the link once more into the chat function. You won't find the old ones, but starting from a couple of weeks ago, all of the stuff, also my talks that I give to the Sangha in Antaiji. The recent talks can be found on Spotify. But before I get to Sawaki Roshi's quotes, as always, let's sit together for 30 minutes. Thank you for joining. Today we are on page 56 of this book, To You by Sawaki Roshi. The first quote is, "The body that takes a nap can also practice Zazen." The body that practices Zazen can also take a nap. So we can use this body for practicing Zazen. We can also use it for taking a nap. The question is, what do you want to use it for? This quote reminds me a little bit of this joke of a monk who's smoking while he's doing Zazen. And another monk said, "But you must not smoke when you're doing Zazen." And the first monk says, "Why? Why do you say so?" "Because I asked my teacher. I asked our teacher, the master." "What did you ask?" "Well, I asked him, is it okay to smoke cigarettes while doing Zazen?" And the master said no. And the first monk said, "Well, you didn't ask the right question. What did you ask him?" I said, "Is it okay to meditate while smoking?" And he said, "Yes, you should meditate all the time in whatever activity you do." And at first it sounds a little bit like this. Nap is also a form of Zazen, and you can also during Zazen take a nap. But I think from when we read the other texts, it becomes clear from the context that what Sawaki Roshi says here, it makes a big difference. If you feel bored, you have nothing to do, you can take a nap to kill the time, but you could also use this time to sit on the cushion, to practice Zazen. And when you do Zazen, you can also take a nap. Maybe because you don't enjoy Zazen, because you're bored, but it could also be because your body needs a rest. When you practice Zazen all day, you need to take a rest as well. And it makes a difference if you take the nap to avoid doing Zazen or if you take the nap to regain energy and to do Zazen afterwards again. Let's go to the next quote. "To practice Zazen together for an entire day is an extraordinary opportunity. To spend the whole day with prostitutes is extraordinary stupidity." So I guess this doesn't need explanations. The metaphor of going to the prostitutes or running a brothel is something that we will encounter in the next quotes as well. The next one goes, "If you eat in the evening in order to break into a house afterwards, you are eating a robbery meal. If you eat in order to go to the prostitutes, you are eating a prostitute meal. If you eat to practice Zazen, then it is a meal of the Buddha way. The question is, why do you eat?" And so I think that also goes for the quote with the nap. The practice is, what's your aim? What's the aim in your life? And depending of the aim of your life, everything that you do with this body, like sleeping, eating, going to the toilet, has a different meaning. If you do it to steal, if you just do to amuse yourself, or if you do it to practice the Buddha way. So you're not only a Buddha when you sit, but if your life is aimed at Zazen, also the meals turn into the meals of a Buddha. The nap turns into the nap of a Buddha. And the next one, "When we change the mattresses at Antaiji." So Sawaki Roshi, for almost 20 years or so after the war, he was also the abbot of Antaiji when it was still in Kyoto, and I think at the time the temple was very poor. When we changed the mattresses at Antaiji, it's not the same thing as when the madam of a brothel changes her mattresses. For the madam, it's about luring customers and making money. For us, it's so the people who come to practice Zazen don't catch colds. Whoever comes to practice Zazen is a Buddha. He sleeps on a Buddha's mattress. And the next one, eat in order to do Zazen, sleep in order to do Zazen. This means that eating and sleeping are also part of Zazen. When you think about earning your living during Zazen, you start saying things like working is also Zen, sitting is also Zen, and you stop sitting Zazen. When you say, on the other hand, that only Zazen is important, then you start thinking that only Zazen is Zazen and that everything else has nothing to do with Zazen. And of course, what Sawaki Roshi is trying to say here, both is wrong. Working is also Zen, sitting is also Zen is a famous quote. I think it existed also in China. Hakuin said this, that meditation in action is 10,000 times better than just sitting still. But you can turn that into an excuse. If Zazen in action is 10,000 times better, then why should I sit? If I can even get paid. I practice Zen while I'm working and I even get paid for that. And then you're playing the game again. If on the other hand you think that only sitting on the cushion counts, you lose the whole rest of the day. Then you're not a Buddha anymore when you're sitting on the toilet. You're not a Buddha when you're eating. You're not a Buddha when you're sleeping. But that's exactly what Sawaki Roshi said in the quotes before. If your aim is Zazen, or I often use the metaphor of the axis of a wheel. If there's a firm axis and this axis is Zazen, then the whole wheel that's spinning around that axis is also practice. It's not only the axis that counts, the whole wheel is practice. The question is, do you have this axis? And if you say, well, the whole wheel is practice, why should I do Zazen? It's like a wheel that's missing the axis, the still point in the center. So you need this still point in the center so that you can claim the 24 hours of the day in itself are practice. In our practice, there's nothing sacred besides Zazen. It's Zazen that saves us ordinary beings by taking our raw flesh and molding it into Zazen. What he means to say here when he says there's nothing sacred besides Zazen, I think of course it's not that taking a meal is not sacred, taking a bath is not sacred, because that's what he said before. If the center of your life is Zazen, taking a meal and taking a bath are also practice. It's basically, it's not that like in other religions the scriptures are sacred or the statues of this Buddha are considered sacred. The only thing that's sacred is the practice that you do in your daily life, with Zazen at the center, but of course taking a meal and taking a bath are also part of this sacred practice. Today, for some reason, I proceed very fast. I could continue for a while, but maybe if you have questions, if there's anything you would like to share, I would like to invite you to do that. Anything you would like to ask or share at this point? No questions?
Maybe I had one.
Yes, Joseph, please.
Yeah. Um, Enjoying these quotes. Thank you. And it's funny you mentioned the metaphor of a wheel and the thing at the center because I was thinking of it earlier when you were reading the quotes. I think you might have answered a question similar to this on one of your YouTube channels recently, but does the idea of everything else in the day revolving around the access of Zazen imply that Zazen has to be a daily practice? You should do it, yeah, every period of time between waking and falling asleep.
I don't think it's a must. Um, I even remember that when I was a student in Berlin, the dojo was open every day except on Mondays. And my question was, well, why? Why is there no opportunity to practice on Monday? Shouldn't we practice every day? And the teacher at the dojo at the time said, no, no, you should also take a day off, at least one day off during the week. And I think it's the same in yoga or in Christianity. I mean, you don't take a day off on Sunday from worship, but the idea that you also need some rest is you can also find in other traditions. So you should not turn it into some kind of idea that I have the duty, I must practice daily. On the other hand, following a regular practice, I think, helps a lot. It doesn't have to be daily, but say 2 times a week, 3 times a week. But I think it depends very much on the person. For me, in the beginning, I had the feeling I even want to sit on Mondays. And I think when the dojo wasn't open, I was sitting in my own room. So at that time, it helped me to sit daily. But if you don't feel that need, and for you, once a week is totally enough, I'm not the guy to tell you, no, you should sit more. I think last time also there was this question, how long should I sit? And I said something like, sit 5 minutes longer than you feel comfortable. But if it feels always comfortable and you have to tell you, I need to sit today because I decided to sit daily, that practice won't continue. Because, I mean, why would you continue such a practice that you don't even enjoy yourself? So if 2 times a week is that what you want to, but 3 times a week would be too much, then sit 2 times a week. But if you want to sit daily, today I would say, well, maybe taking a day off once a week is not a bad idea, but nobody checks on your practice, so you could even sit daily. But either way, it's better to sit regularly for a long stretch of time, and we're talking about years and decades, than to sit as long as possible, but then to stop after 3 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever. But well, the short answer is I can't think of a reason why you should sit daily, especially if you don't want to sit daily. And in Antaiji also there was 1 day off every 5 days. We said 1,008 hours a year, so we said quite a lot of time, but every 5 days or so there was a day off without Zazen at all. Anything else that you would like to ask or share? No questions today? Julian, please.
I was just going back to the still point and what Joseph's question was. When I work with body work therapy with my clients, what I'm really trying to do is nudge them towards that feeling of embodied stillness. And I might only see them every 2 or 3 weeks. but it's just having that sense occasionally, isn't it? And then it enables you to revolve around that still point. So I think it's occasionally touching or aiming at that still point is the absolute key thing. Of course, I am checking up how regularly Joseph is sitting, so I'm keeping an eye on
it. You have a camera installed in his room?
No, I'm gonna visit him tomorrow.
Okay.
Anyway, I just thought, and to really feel it with the bodywork clients, really feeling those moments of embodied present stillness. You know, they always say that then helps. They're in the middle of some frantic work thing, but it's just sitting there, isn't it, informing you, maybe. So, although, of course, then it's good for nothing, as we all know.
Is there anything else you would like to ask or share? Of course, I could continue with another quote or two, but originally the idea was this class is from 8 to 8:50, so why not finish a little bit earlier today? And in a week I get back to the precious mirror samadhi, and in 2 weeks I continue with these quotes. So, as always, thank you everybody for joining, and thank you especially to Schwan-san for hosting us here, and hoping to see you again next week. Same time, same address, same password. And if you want to check out Spotify, you find the link in the chat function, or for those who came later, I will put it in once more. Okay, thank you. Good night or good morning if you're living in some strange part of the world. See you. Bye.